The Oklahoma Sooners quarterback situation might have gotten a little bit clearer, a little bit cloudier. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com today. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire at USA Today Sports. And on today's show, we're going to preview CHAMPU Barbecue in the third segment, discuss some of the big-time visitors that will be in Norman this weekend. We'll also discuss some late-night recruiting predictions that came down Thursday evening, but we got to start with this, which also came down late night Thursday evening as I'm about to go to bed, as Jay's about to go to bed. One Jaden O'Neal, the four-star quarterback that had been committed to the Oklahoma Sooners for a year, decommitted from Oklahoma and is reopening his recruitment.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough night for anyone in Oklahoma, especially for Sooner fans, man. You had the Thunder that had a game that we hope was going to close out. They didn't give it to us, so go check out our guy over there at Rylan over there at Locked On Thunder and hear his breakdown on that. And then, of course, Jaden O'Neal decides to go ahead and decommit, and it feels like this is post his trip with Florida State. And so there's been predictions going in thinking that he's going to commit there or at least flip. And we've been waiting for this, right? CHAMPU Barbecue weekend is this weekend. So the expectation was Jaden O'Neal would possibly be in town on Friday and Saturday and be there for the weekend and all those festivities. Well, that no longer is going to happen because Jaden has decommitted, and it makes sense, right, John? We talked about this a few times. For Jaden O'Neal in this situation with the Oklahoma Sooners, it was unfortunate, right? You know, Seth Luttrell was the main recruiter of him coming out of California, and that was his guy. Like, Jaden O'Neal was the only quarterback he wanted to get in the class, and they were going to get that done. Well, Seth gets fired. When Seth gets fired, things get a little sticky. Oklahoma goes and gets the offensive coordinator and Ben Arbuckle, who also brings John Materi in. But, John, this is the one thing that I don't think Sooner fans understand. One thing that Sooner fans probably need to hear. If you're going to hire a really good offensive coordinator, in which everybody expects offensive coordinator to be lights out, you can't expect BV to have the capabilities of dictating who the quarterback is going to be in the class. Now, BV and Ben Arbuckle have both said they wanted to have the two quarterbacks in this class just to make sure that they have the bodies and the arms in the room. But at the same time, Jaden possibly did not feel like he was the priority. And so he decided he's going to go elsewhere. He's been shopping around, and it sounds like Florida State may be the place he ends up.
Yeah, I mean, his statement was pretty clear. He thanked Seth Luttrell. He thanked, former analysts that were on the staff. Did not mention Brent Venables. Did not mention Ben Arbuckle. He did thank Sooner Nation for supporting him and being, in his or on his back, or not on his back, but having his back during this whole saga ordeal, whatever you want to call it. And also understood in his statement that this is a business and a lot changes, and everything has changed since he committed to Oklahoma. The main guy that recruited him is now at Tennessee. They offered another quarterback in Bowe Bentley. This is just the nature of the business, and you can't expect an offensive coordinator to not have an opinion at quarterback. And of Ben Arbuckle's opinion, he also wanted to have Bowe Bentley. Now, was it a pipe dream to expect Oklahoma to be able to get both of these quarterbacks? Possibly, especially when you have big-time programs like Florida State, like Auburn, and Arizona. Not a big-time program, but still a program that's had some quarterback success with Noah Fifita over the last few years.
Yeah.
You have to expect that when a quarterback is getting pursued like that, and he's taking a lot of visits, that it's only a matter of time, really, until that commitment starts to wane a little bit. And as the Knowles 247 guys at 247 Sports were beginning to issue their prediction flips, It just seemed it was more a matter of when, not if, that Jaden O'Neal would decommit. The fact that it happened late Thursday night, a little bit surprising, but at the same time, on the eve of CHAMPU Barbecue, when he's expected to be in Norman for an official visit, you got to make the announcement at some point. So listen, Jaden O'Neal's a good quarterback. He's number 14 in the 247 Sports composite rankings. He's a guy that's going to put up some numbers when he gets to the collegiate level. Good kid. I feel like he's handled all of this as best as he could handle it, and I think did everything the right way. It's just, like he mentioned in his statement, it's just the business of college football, unfortunately. Would it have been nice to have him in the class? Absolutely. I think he's going to be very, very talented at the next level. At the same time, you understand where Ben Arbuckle's coming from on this as well, in that he's got, again, his own opinions on who he wants to be his quarterback.
Yeah, and I guess the best way for me to say this is that there was no intentions for Jaden O'Neal to truly decommit, even with the coaching change. That was not their plan. Like some people may believe that was. It's not. He doesn't move to Mustang if you want to decommit. Like him moving to Oklahoma was by choice. They moved there because they wanted to be closer to the school because it made more sense for them, especially playing out there in California. If you can come to Oklahoma and be closer to the school, be able to do more peer recruiting, even find some talent around the state that could potentially try to draw in as well, that's what you want to do. And so for Jaden, reading the statement, of course, he thanked Latrell, Jack Lowry, and Ty Hatch, 3 coaches that are no longer at Oklahoma, the ones that were pushing heavy for him here at Oklahoma, the ones that were advocating for him. It totally makes sense that, he needed to decommit it and do what's best for them. Like you said, it's a business. That's the unfortunate part of how this works. And again, if you wanted to get an elite offensive coordinator, you're not going to be able to dictate to him who he's allowed, who's going to be their quarterback. Ben Arbuckle is going to have the ability to say, you know what, I would like to have this quarterback with this quarterback, or both these quarterbacks, or just this guy. Now, do not be surprised if Oklahoma goes out, offers another quarterback, and potentially gets another commitment from a quarterback in this class. I do believe that they truthfully want to have a 2 QB system, while at the same time, if you really look at I've given the comparisons before. If you look at who Ben Arbuckle has coached, John Mateer and Bowe Bentley have a lot more similarities, right? Jaden O'Neal has a little bit more similarities to like a Cam Ward. So if you look at the 2 comparisons, Jaden more Cam Ward, Bowe Bentley more John Mateer, I assume that Ben Arbuckle would rather have more John Mateers today in comparison to Cam Ward's, even though Cam Ward was able to go out there and get himself drafted number 1 in the NFL draft. I think that he feels in the SEC, there's more success with a guy that's a little bit more mobile. And so now Oklahoma is just going to have to go and, tighten up their bootstraps, pull them up, and get out there and find themselves another quarterback, in which Bowe Bentley is most likely that guy. I know they're pushing hard for him. Who was this from ESPN just recently tweeted? Eli Letterman basically tweeted out that right after the decommitment that Oklahoma is working on trying to get Bowe Bentley back on campus this weekend. So that means that will be a return trip from him coming from the beginning of the month, right after the Elite 11s, which I think ends tomorrow. Actually, no, it ends today, here on Friday. So yeah, their goal will be to get him in tonight to be able to be around for the entire weekend. We'll know by Saturday morning, let's put it that way.
Yeah, Eli Letterman, a plugged-in name after his time at the Tulsa World, so it wouldn't surprise me if Oklahoma is able to get Bowe Bentley in town. I don't think it necessarily means anything on the Bowe Bentley situation until we hear what Bowe Bentley is going to do, until he actually announces a commitment to Oklahoma. When that happens, nobody's going to know. I think the only people that know that are Bowe Bentley and his mom and dad. And maybe
I don't even think his mom and dad knows, to be honest.
Maybe not the mom and dad, but they've been very measured in this entire process. So it wouldn't surprise me if they just one day just like, you know what, committed. And that's all we ever hear about it. No big ceremony, no big announcement, just graphic committed. But we'll see. It could mean good things for Oklahoma, but all I know is what it does mean is Ben Arbuckle, you better get your guy now. You've put all the eggs in the Bowe Bentley basket. You better go get your guy, and you better be right. Because if Jaden O'Neal goes off to Florida State and balls and it doesn't work out, with Bowe Bentley, which I think most people are of the mind that it's going to work out. But if it doesn't, we've seen highly rated quarterbacks not work out at Oklahoma. 2 of them actually in the last 5 years, right? In Spencer Rattler and Jackson Arnold. If it doesn't work out, people are going to remember you for it.
Yeah,
So
that's a very fair point.
So it's not all been terrible news for Oklahoma. Thursday into Friday, they did receive some recruiting predictions favoring the Oklahoma Sooners for some 4-star prospects. We'll discuss those guys coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
The NBA playoffs are definitely in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, on top of massive blowouts. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get into action. And of course, FanDuel is going to make it easy for you to get in the game before tip and live with player props, performance trends, same-day game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big, especially if you look at the Thunder right now. It's a good idea to take a look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to not only win Finals MVP, because it looks like, he's been that dude the entire time, but build a parlay on him scoring at least 30 points because that man has been beyond consistent. Add J-Dub with it. Build yourself a nice little parlay. Maybe Pascal Siakam shows up for the Pacers. Whatever you want to do. The cool thing is that if you are new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. They're going to give you $200 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So if you're new, perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to have some CHAMPU Barbecue thoughts coming up in the third segment, but we got to start here. On Thursday, Oklahoma received a pair of predictions for Dallas Dickerson, the wide receiver out of Georgia, the speed demon out of Georgia. OU Insiders Parker Thune projected Oklahoma to be the landing spot, but also Sam Spiegelman, a national recruiting analyst, also projected Oklahoma to be the landing spot for Dallas Dickerson.
Yeah, Spiegelman's at Rivals as well. Yeah, so formerly from On3. Wow, that's kind of crazy that you get a national guy as well as a local guy. Once you get a local guy, they usually are plugged in and get some type of info. But when the national guys start jumping in, it usually means a lot of whispers are happening. And I know Oklahoma was battling Georgia. His final 3 was actually Georgia Tech, Kentucky, and Oklahoma. He posted a tweet out before his commitment date, which is coming up. That's a pretty big deal for Oklahoma. We could use a nice 6-foot wide receiver who's fast. He's also a track kid, and so we know that he does hit the track himself. I have to find his numbers again and what speeds he had, but 6'1", 180, John, can you beat that? Like, is there a complaint in your part of having a guy that's speedy and that size on this team?
No, give me that speed. Give me that size for sure. Man, 247 doesn't even have it. Usually they're the ones that have the track speeds, but
here it is. His personal record in the 100 is a 10.4. He ran a 10.6 when he won the state championship in the 100-meter dash. I knew I had it in front of me. I just closed the wrong tab, so my bad, y'all. But at the same time, 10.6, 10.4 to 10.6 range, yeah, that's lightning fast for a nice size wide receiver, especially at 6'1", roughly 180 pounds. If Oklahoma can close that deal, yeah, we put ourselves in a very good position going forward.
So he's seen as a 4-star by Rivals, a 3-star other places, but from what I understand, he's been really, really good on the camp circuit.
Yes.
And could really see his numbers start to fly up the charts and maybe finish as a top 25 wide receiver. Right now he's sitting closer in the 40s range, but you can't teach speed. And that's one of those things that he has, and he has it in spades. If you can pair that with a Daniel Odom, who's got that size, that frame to be that possession type receiver, and then you can throw a guy like Dallas Dickerson on the other side, being the burner, going deep, winning deep, stretching the field. I think that makes for a good balance in what you have. And you kind of need some speed. You haven't been able to find that yet. You had Jaquez Petaway, you've had, KJ Daniels. You just haven't been able to unlock those guys just yet.
Yeah.
or Zion Reagans. You need to find a speed guy that can help take the top off the defense and make things a lot easier for your offense.
Especially when it's clocked a 4.42 40-yard dash. And it looks like on three says that the best they've seen is like a 10.36, so roughly a 10.4. So yeah,
crazy.
Having a guy to blow off the top, just like you said, but at the same time having him that big in size, that's a massive advantage you'll get out there. You could throw him on the outside and you can just launch it and let it go. It's hard to find guys at the 4.4 speed and still be that big. I mean, it's a lot more common as you see it, when you see recruiting nowadays, especially at the wide receiver or just the athlete position itself. But Dallas Dickerson could be a pretty good game-changing guy. So you got Ja Tech, Kentucky, in which L.D. Washington, the former wide receiver coach at Oklahoma, is actually there recruiting him to Kentucky as well. So, hey, you got a lot of ties in the capacity of Oklahoma, but I think that the Sooners can probably seal the deal.
And don't sleep on either of those schools
at all.
And their wide receiver recruiting history, because they find some absolute gems and they get some big-time talents at those schools. Georgia Tech was Calvin Johnson, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Megatron was from there.
So don't let the Georgia Tech thing fool you. They find some really, really good players from time to time. So Dallas Dickerson projected to Oklahoma by Parker Thune and Sam Spiegelman. The other one, the number one player in the state of Oklahoma, depending on where you look, Tajh Overton, projected to land with the Sooners. Oddly enough, not by anybody in the Oklahoma sphere. It's from a Ole Miss and SMU recruiting analyst. This one comes from, what was his name? Billy Embody, projecting Oklahoma to be the landing spot for Tajh Overton.
That's a fascinating one. Now, that goes back to the OK Prep agenda that your boy has always been pushing. I am huge on us getting guys from in-state. Tajh coming from Owasso, he's one that I've always said that Oklahoma needs to land. 6'2", 275, probably a lot bigger than that now. He's a nice, thick kid, and he's one that, Oklahoma needs to land him. Like, in-state kid, and I think he's taller than 6'2.5". BV standing next to him is down by at least a couple inches, so he's more in the 6'4" range, but I know that he's good. Very talented, strong, and I like the fact that we're you get predictions from folks from other programs that are really recruiting the heck out of them. This must mean that Ole Miss probably didn't think they have as much of a chance as they thought they did, and that's, to me, a good thing for Oklahoma.
Yeah, Ole Miss has done some really nice things on the recruiting trail, and they've been able to develop some strong interior defensive line play over the years. Don't sleep on this one. He's got some really good offers, even though he's from Oklahoma. I mean, he's got offers from Ole Miss, LSU, Auburn, Nebraska, Texas A&M, Miami, Florida, Tennessee, Washington, Texas, SMU, Arkansas, Arizona State, Kansas, TCU, Michigan State, Wisconsin. Michigan State, mind you, that's been a thorn in Oklahoma prep recruiting for years. Houston, who's got the bags to offer, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, UCF, Kansas State, Tulsa, and Utah. Dang. So very much a national recruitment for Tajh Overton, and shout out to him and Owasso for being able to create that much buzz for him. But a 4-star prospect, according to Rivals, ESPN, and 247. He's a 4-star in the On3 composite, but just a really, really talented player. And somebody that, again, if you can get him added to what you've already built along the defensive line, you're starting to stack those really strong interior players.
Yeah, you add him with a Brian Harris, in which we've seen him. He was the MVP over there at, the Under Armour Next camp, or the defensive MVP. Those are the type of players you want to stack up, ones that are winning at camp that everybody's really paying attention to. It's okay sometimes to get diamonds in the rough out there too, but you also want to land some of the guys that you feel like a quote-unquote for sure type talent. I think Tajh is one of those. Like I said, 247, it has him as a top 200 player in the country, number one in the state. And he's overall in a consensus composite for On3, 255. So he's top 300 easily. And he's going to do nothing but continue to rise, especially through this season. So Oklahoma kind of needs that. I'm waiting for somebody else to drop a prediction. I haven't seen a lot of action on it, but the good thing is we're going to talk about CHAMPU Barbecue weekend anyway, and he is expected to be here this weekend. So Brian Harris will have an opportunity to do even more peer recruiting while he's in town. To me, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, this is very much a top priority weekend for guys like Todd Bates, Miguel Chavis. They're going to be front row center, and all eyes are going to be on them and how they close out some recruitments and some official visits this weekend. We'll discuss CHAMPU Barbecue coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. So CHAMPU Barbecue, another big recruiting weekend coming up for the Oklahoma Sooners. They're going to have some big time prospects in town in Norman. And I think it all starts with the IMG Academy prospect, Jake Kreul, right, Jay?
Yeah, you got Jake Kreul. Looks like Jordan Clay is on the list. So based upon the social media follows, I have them actually listed in my Discord, in my Unfair Sports Discord, as well as the one we have for Locked On Sooners. Feel free to check out the link in the description below to come join and hang out and just talk a little ball with us. People was actually talking about the Jaden O'Neal decommitment last night all through the court. So it's there if you want to come hang out and talk with us. But from all the social media posts, here's the ones that I have, and I'm going to mention a couple of them that I believe could potentially not show up because they've already committed to other places. So you've got, of course, so Jaden O'Neal was supposed to be on the list. I know that he's definitely not going to be there anymore because he's no longer committed to Oklahoma. You got to toss out there Jordan Clay, Daniel Odom. I'm wondering if he's still going to pull up. You know, him and Jaden are like this. I haven't seen or heard that that's changed, but that could change. Wide receiver Zachary Turner from Duncanville, Tajh Overton, who we just talked about, Jake Kreul. You've got Jacob Eberhardt from St. Louis, the athlete, 4-star athlete, about 6'2", 6'3", plays probably wide receiver, pretty good. Ryder Mix is going to be in, who's an Oklahoma commit. Devon Robinson, I saw that he got posted something about coming in. Brian Harris said he's switching his so he can peer recruit Jake Kreul. You got D'Anthony Lafayette, Ed, 3-star edge. Daniel Norman, 3-star edge out of Florida. Both of those are Florida boys. The two Chandler, Arizona boys, and Bo and Nico Gendreau are supposed to be in town as well. And then Braden Presley out of Bigsby, Oklahoma. One of the Presley boys that typically Oklahoma State lands, but this one, he's a big boy. He's like 6'1", almost 6'2", DB, and you know we like our big DBs. And then kicker Trace Rudd has posted that he's going to be in town. And so the ones that did post on social media will come, but they're probably not going to be there. Alzure Miles, who's already committed, Tua Katoa, who's already committed to SMU as well. He's not coming, or Ryan Gilbert. All three of them are SMU commits. Don't expect to see any of them coming. Will Conroy, who just flipped to North Carolina, don't expect to see him in town. Craig Dandridge is on the list. He posted that he was going to be in town, or at least he has it in his official visit piece. I don't know if he's going to show up because he's got a commitment date coming up sometime next week, and I've been seeing a lot of links for him out of Alpharetta, Georgia, staying close to home and going to UGA. I'm not sure on that. We'll see. Last one really is Valdon Sohn. I have seen him canceling and changing up his OVs. Haven't seen anything on Oklahoma being confirmed yet. So I know he missed Florida by going to Nebraska instead last week. So Florida thinks they're out. We'll see if he shows up. So it's a long list. A lot of good players, John. But Jake Kreul is probably the number one on the list to me that I want Oklahoma to go after. That and these wide receivers. I want one of these big wide receivers like a Jordan Clay.
Yeah, so Brian Harris, Locked On's recruiting expert, said that Jake Kreul was maybe the most technically gifted high school junior he's ever seen.
Which is crazy to say.
And
Brian Smith has seen some players.
Yeah.
He's seen a lot. And for him to say that,
yeah,
that's terrifying, which I would really hope that we could pull that off.
Yeah. So he, even as a freshman, he was very impressed with what Jake Kreul had to offer. It seems like this is a kid that's known he's going to be playing defensive end for a long time and just went ahead and started to perfect his craft, as opposed to having to play tight end or wide receiver or whatever. No, he just locked in at defensive end. But yeah, it's a lot of big time prospects. I'll be curious to see if Valdon Sohn makes the trip, because it's another interior defensive line prospect that Oklahoma has been really heavily pushing for. And we've seen them in years past. They want to add as many of those kind of guys as they can possibly add, because they understand that the trajectory is a little bit different for each one of those guys. That you're going to have a Jaden Jackson that's ready to go right away, and you're going to have a Grayson Halton sometimes that takes 2 to 3 years before he's ready to contribute and play. So it wouldn't surprise me to see them land 3 defensive linemen. Another one I thought was interesting that you mentioned was the interior offensive lineman, Devon Robinson. Like, that's a dude that, okay, maybe now Oklahoma is pushing a little bit heavier for him because Will Conroy flipped to North Carolina. Is there another one in there? Do you feel like Oklahoma, I mean, obviously all these guys are going to be a priority because it's official visits, but I'm looking at Robeson, I'm looking at Bo Jandro. Like, those are 2 that I need to see Oklahoma lock up and land, because one, we need a Bo Jandro because we need linebacker help. You're going to be thin at linebacker after the 2025 season, when potentially Kip Lewis goes off to the NFL. If Kobe McKenzie has a big year, he could be off to the NFL as well. And you're looking pretty thin. So you need to start adding that depth.
Yeah, I would like to get Presley. I would like to get Braden Presley. He's one big name for me. Like I said, both of his brothers play ball here in the state. Brennan played ball over at Oklahoma State. Braylon, his other brother, is now at Tulsa, who played a little bit of time at Oklahoma State. And so if he comes into town and shows up, man, he's the one player I would love Oklahoma to snatch away from State. He, like I said, he's the bigger brother, 6'1", 180, nice size kid, and he's a part of the OK Prep agenda, which I am very much a big advocate for. I like getting 8-state guys and continue to building the pipeline here. If there's one place we need to own things, it's going to need to be in this state. And so there's a chance for it. You just got to make sure you get them on campus to make it happen. Yeah,
and you got to open the door at Bixby a little bit. It's not been a place that you've had a ton of success. I think the one that I look back to is the Luke Haas recruitment.
Ugh,
you lose him to Arkansas. Now he's at Ole Miss. And what have you needed? You needed tight end play over the last few years. And how nice would it have been to land a kid like Luke Haas? But again, let's go break the ice with Bixby a little bit and see if we can get a Presley brother. I mean, you had one at Oklahoma State, you got one at Tulsa. It's Oklahoma's turn to get a Presley.
Yeah, it's our turn. We deserve it, I guess you could say. I'm just spitballing here, but I would totally love. He's probably the one outside of Jay Kreul that I'm like I'm really pushing the hardest for. Tajh Overton, of course, is another great one because he's an OK Prep. But now the question for I have with Oklahoma is, who on the offensive line are you about to really sink into? I know that Deacon Schmidt's about to commit sometime next week. Kind of leaning Oklahoma still there. I've seen a couple of predictions go in for him to potentially pick Oklahoma. So we'll just see what that looks like. But man, I'm glad we're getting to the end of OV season. I actually saw somewhere, John, this is going to be an interesting conversation to have in the future, but I guess you said the quote unquote oversight committee for the NCAA, one of the conversations has been to move signing day to July, like right around July 1st, mainly because what the coach's statement was, I saw in the article I read on Yahoo Sports, was June is the big OV visit month anyway. If the kids are going to go ahead and commit, have them just go ahead and be done and commit at that point, sign there in July, then everybody can just focus on the games. They can bring kids in to do their visits and be done. It may speed up the timeline for some of these kids for the senior year, but truth be told, there's no reason to really drag it out, especially because a lot of the schools are going to want to get their budgets done for revenue share as the next fiscal year starts July 1st. They can have those plans in place right there when those commitments come through. So, or those signings come through. So I kind of like the idea the last week of June for it to be signings, like right after the final OV weekend, make it like that Wednesday, and then lead it right into July 1st and the refresh of the revenue share for that season. Not a bad idea.
No, I think there's a good idea there, but I also think you're going to run into some unintended consequences of players balling out their senior year and then being asked to be released from their NLI, like, and having to go through some of that drama. So I'll be curious. Do they have 2 signing periods? Do they get rid of the one in February altogether?
Yep.
And do they have the July one and a winter one?
Nope. Only July is what they want. That way they can just completely have their budgets prepared. Because the thing to remember is, too, that a lot of those kids are going to want to enroll early in January. So if you can do that, get that done, get your budgets already prepared to where you know that when January hits, you'll have a small allocation for new players, if that's something of concern. But overall, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's actually really good. Get rid of the December and the February one. Do everything in the offseason, and then let football be football season only, except for the transfer portal, which they're all pushing for only one portal, which would be in April.
Man, I feel for those kids that are the late bloomers. You know what I mean? Like, you don't show out to your senior year, you're kind of screwed on that front.
Unless you're a grad. You can be a grad transfer and then have that. Because truth be told, you really
no, I mean, like, not the transfer portal. I'm talking about the high school senior. Like,
oh, yeah.
Like, you break out your senior year, and, I mean, maybe you're already a little bit behind the recruiting 8 ball, but we've seen a number of players start to show out that senior year, and that really moves the needle in their recruitments so much. They start landing Power 4 offers.
It's true. Maybe they have one in December as well. Yeah. I mean, that could always be a possibility.
Like, keep the February one for those late signees, those guys that hadn't quite moved the needle enough to get the offers they're looking for. But
I think the February one, to me, is I think the February one is, if there's anyone you can get rid of, is that, because high school football season is done in November. Yeah. To me, have your signatures done then. That way, if they're going to early enroll, they can early enroll in January. Yep. And then you can focus on the transfer portal throughout January going into, February. Because the games are still being played in January. So for those teams that still are continuing to play, it's going to be painful. But yeah, I like the idea of getting rid of the February one, probably keep the December, but I'm expecting for them to move everything to July, because I think that's probably the safest time anyway. Like I said, get your budgets together. It makes the most sense. But like you said, kids that don't break out into the senior year, sorry, boss. Sorry for you.
But also transfer portal. That'll be an option for you down the road. Won't somebody think of the children? As the line from The Simpsons goes. But
exactly.
Anyway, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. Follow me at John9Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. You can follow the show at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer
Sooner. Now we need to have this weekend to be big. It's going to be critical.
We want Bowe. We
Bentley.
want Bowe.
Bentley.